All right, guys, welcome back to the Cage Cult podcast. Today I'm joined by Joffie Houlton, who is a Aries FC heavyweight. His most recent outing managed to break the company's record with the fastest knockout in history, so good start. He's got another fight coming up. I have the dates here. I tell you what, you've picked some opponent's name. Aries 18 on December 15th at Palais des Sports Marcel Cerdan in France, and that is against Abu Bakar Bathily.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's another one of these opponents that hasn't been the distance since like 2018. I'm assuming.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't been the distance since about 2018, so I don't really care about that. And I mean, Abu called me out; it wasn't the other way around. And I've got no. Like I said, it's like this is the thing, right? So in June, I was like, I'm ready whenever anybody else is ready to go. So just somebody let me know, like somebody get on the phone. I would have fought in September if they'd have had me. They moved their September show to November. I would have fought in November if they had me. I said November. Let's do it. Big up to Abu. He's the only guy that was like, yeah, I want to fight you. And it doesn't need to be like it's not personal with me. It's never. Yeah. It's just business. It's just business. And he's the only guy that was like, yeah, I'm down to fight him. So I was like, well, let's do it then. We don't need to have a conversation. Doesn't need to be like loads of back and forth. There's going to be nothing nasty. Let's just do it. Like, he wanted to fight my teammate before. He wanted to fight Tom. He didn't manage to fight Tom. I assume he wants to go the same kind of place as I do. So let's just have a little scrap. Good opponent. We'll see what comes from it.
Yeah, it feels like I don't know. After that sort of first performance, it's going to be hard to have anybody sort of call you out. So it must have.
I don't know, right? So maybe people look at this differently than I do. So I understand that we're all heavyweights. Like, we're all heavies. Any of us have that one-shot KO power. It's not like if you look at bantamweight, I always use Cody Garbrandt as a great example. Cody's like king of the glass cannons. So when he was on, boom, he hits you lights out. Also, if you hit him, lights out. But not everybody in that division has one-shot KO power. You got to think like Cody was at bantam. A good example of somebody who doesn't necessarily have one-shot KO power is Aljamain Sterling. He just doesn't have it. And that's not a knock on him. It's just not something that he necessarily has. Like, if you look at any of his, his big TKOs, his big finishes, like in terms of TKOs, they're cumulative damage. And that's not a bad thing. It's still a very, very good thing to have. Like, have that in your arsenal. Heavy, it's different. We all, I think, like, kind of not necessarily middleweight, but a lot more middleweights. There's like a higher propensity to have it. But like light heavy upwards, everybody seems to have that one-shot KO power. It's done. So I looked at the kind of knockout that I had, and if I was my opponent looking forward, I'd be like, well, maybe you just caught him. We all can catch each other on any day. So why you I would still be calling me out, because why would you have any fear over that? There's no point of having fear in it. Yeah, we're all in the game for that reason.
Yeah, if you were to look at it from the other end, you've got a momentum within the company that not a lot of the other heavyweights have right now. Even though you had that 9-second KO, that also sort of puts a target on your back at the same time as in saying, okay, that's someone with a name in this division now. It might actually be worth taking that chance.
Yeah, and I think maybe it is worth taking that chance. And if you think it's worth taking the chance, do it. But I'm still going to be the same me. So I look at it in the way of like, I had a 9-second KO. I showed absolutely nothing. I didn't show you who I am. If you don't know me, you still don't know me. So what you're planning, you could be planning for something, and maybe that's not what I actually do.
That's fair, though. I mean, to be fair, it's a nice introduction clip if someone doesn't know you.
Yeah, I mean,
if someone's like, I mean, if anyone asks you, what do you do for work, and you say I'm an MMA fighter, you say, oh, got any videos you can show me? It's a pretty good one to fill up.
I don't say that. Like, people are like, what do you do for a job? I work for a gambling company. Everybody asks me, like, I work for a gambling. Yeah, I work for a gambling company. I work in player protection. So, like,
oh, really? I used to work for a bookies.
Yeah, mate. Do you know what? I quite. So I worked for Bet365 at one stage, and now I work for Virgin Bet. Yeah, I can say who I work for. I don't care. I work for Virgin Bet, and I work in player protection. So I want to keep people safe from gambling-related harm. That's what I do. I happen to fight professionally as well. It's just like it's not what I do full time. So when people ask me like what I do, I'm like, okay, so I work for a gambling company and I also fight. And then like, oh, you're a fighter, and everybody thinks like I'm from Stoke-on-Trent, and we have like quite a big boxing culture here. But it also means that people work fight a lot on unlicensed shows like BKB. A lot of people think that I'm just like, he's one of them guys.
One of those guys.
I'm not one of those guys. I'm not I'm on Aries. It's literally on Fight Pass. It's one of the biggest shows out there.
Yeah, I think that's sort of the distinguishing point. I've got a lot of sort of mates that fight round about here, but they're fighting on shows that maybe have 4 events and then go under and come back as a different name because they didn't pay a few fighters the last time. And it turns out that one of the gyms are actually running the show, so their fighters are fighting against guys that are zero. There's a lot of weirdness sort of in the underground scene, but it feels like when you get to sort of Cage Warriors and Aries and stuff like that on Fight Pass, it's sort of, you can bank on it being a respectable show. Do you know what I mean? There's a decent competitive fighting and stuff like that.
I think when we look at kind of what I would say is, so I argue that the domestic regional scene is one entity, and then like what I would call like the mid tier is where I sit, and it's like I can't even call it region. It's like the almost European level. Cage Warriors, Aries. I put kind of, I know they're not necessarily
KSW
European,
maybe.
See, I'd put KSW on world level. I think
I'd agree with that usually as well, but I'm finding it hard to like tell people that outside of people who know what KSW is, and the fact they're selling out like 56,000 seat arenas in Poland and stuff like that.
For me, it's the big 4. It'll always be the big 4. So UFC, Bellator, ONE, KSW, and like that's end game. That's top tier, and then below that you have kind of like I was saying, your European guys, your mid tier, which is where I sit, and I firmly believe I'm at the upper echelon of the mid tier, if not the best in the mid tier, and therefore should be in the upper tier soon. And like when I look at it, I'm like, that's why I was desperate to kind of get off the domestic scene. Because I knew I was. It's hard to get matched on the domestic scene as well, because you have this. I was speaking with a referee about this exact issue that I was having. I saw him at an event, and it's Paul Crosley, and we had a big chat about it. And he was like, the problem you have is that, like a lot of people, my division's small in terms of talent pool anyway, but like you're like just a little bit too good for domestic. You're not quite good enough for world tier. You're still going to struggle on the European, because nobody wants to go, I lost to you, and take that risk of losing. And nobody, like, people still have this thing in MMA where they don't want to give up their O. Like being undefeated doesn't matter as much in MMA. Just doesn't. Like, I've lost 2 fights. I'm still like out here smashing it. So
yeah, but it was one of those things that had happened to a guy that was coaching me, actually, Dylan Chook. He was going to PFL. That was always a plan. He ended up fighting this year in the tournament and stuff like that. But before it, he'd went a smaller show and decided to take like a sort of tune-up fight. Now, the guy had a decent record, but the refereeing was that bad that basically he went for a takedown. He was on all fours. The guy kicked him in the head, like soccer kicked him. He didn't know what was going on, sort of tried to get back up, and he got guillotined. But during all this, when Dylan was trying to get back up, the ref pushed him back as though he was going to stop it to give him a break.
Yeah.
And then just let it go. So he's basically, it's these referees and stuff like that get hired just out of nowhere. That I hate the regional scene stuff, because Dylan's next again fight, PFL still let him come in with that loss. And he beat a guy that was like 8-0 to get through in the tournament.
Yeah. So it's hard because you need the domestic regional scene to get to where you want to go, but then it's also like it can prove difficult for some people. Kind of like you said there with Dylan, it's hard because like a tune-up fight as such is something I don't recommend to fighters. Like, I just don't think it's good for you. Like, go out and
I don't think a tune-up fight's the right word, but it was sort of like he already knew he was going to PFL, but he hadn't fought in a while. The guy still had a decent record, but I think it was like 17-10 or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, had a decent record, but every one of his wins was over a guy that wasn't that great.
See, for me, in those instances, I kind of look at it and go, if I say, let's say the UFC called me today, hi, Joff, we're signing you. You're going to fight within 6 months. Okay, cool. I'll call Aries now and tell him I'm not fighting. I'm going to sit out and wait. PFL, they're kind of an anomaly because I think like maybe a few years ago I probably would have put them in upper echelon. But I just don't believe that what they've attempted to do on the European scene is working right now. I don't think they've invested heavily enough in it. I mean, you've got absolute killers, like they've got great stars, Simeon, Dakota, Lewis, like they've got such good talent they could build on in Europe. And I just don't think what they've given to their European tournament this year has been enough. I don't think it's had enough coverage. I mean, like, why are we not all talking about those 3 stars like constantly? Like they should be everywhere. And like the 3 of them at some point, I believe, will be in the UFC when they choose. And it's like, you should be on that now. Like, you should be on them like, now.
The company Octagon, now they're pretty close to. They were pretty close to an unknown entity in the UK. I think they were quite big in Germany and stuff like that. But they came over here and instantly put in a reality show and another thing on Channel 4 to build up these fighters. Like, PFL could have done that. They have the money. They've been fucking putting it everywhere but the places it needs to be. You know what I mean?
So Octagon's a weird one. Octagon has such a good base in kind of Germany, Croatia, that kind of part of the world. I was at their show. Show.
I was talking to Dennis Frimpong yesterday.
Oh, Frimpong, mate! I've got so much time for Frimpong. Like, we used to train together. He's a glorious guy. I think also, like, total side note, and I'll come back to what I was saying, but oh my God, what an ask from 2 very early pro fighters to put them in a 5-round. That's
what I was saying.
Like, what? Like, I'm sorry, I don't know if you can get away with swearing on this, but what the fuck? Like, that was so we were sat cage side. So I sat with Richard, who runs Eric's, and Ben Cartledge. And we were just like, we were watching. And I heard the announcer go like, 5-minute rounds. I was like, what? I was like, right, hang on. There's no way that's right. So it was, I think it was George's technical pro debut.
And I'm like, it was 0-0.
I'm like, what? So he's got to go do a 5-rounder now. And I have no doubt that they were both fit and capable enough, and like, big credit to both of them. And George had a great performance. Like, for me, I thought Frimpong was going to do it. I'm a firm believer in him. I know how he trains. I know how good he is. Just wasn't his night. But to ask them to do 5 rounds, I was like, this is mental. Anyway, sorry, I digress. Back to the point. The show itself, I didn't watch the reality show. I only watched the bits of Frimpong because he's my friend. I thought, yeah, watch this, see what he's doing. I don't think they really thought about, 1, location, and 2, how they were going to stack this card. So everybody knows that if you do an MMA event in Manchester, you do it at Bowlers. Like APFC, Bowlers. Cage Warriors, Bowlers. I've known the only people that should be doing arenas is the UFC.
Yeah.
And they chose to sell, to obviously do the arena, the AO. Now the AO sits like, I want to say off the top of my head, 19,000. Bro, that show was dead. The show was quiet. And I'm like,
I was watching the fight on TV and I'm like, there's like 1 person in every 5 seats. Like, if you're like, what are you doing here?
And it was a very short card, which is already a problem. Already a huge problem. Like 9 or 10 fights total. The Shamrock fight got pulled.
Yeah, that was due to injury, man.
Yeah, I'm not going to say anyone's a bitch, but like,
someone might have been acting a bit like a bitch.
All I'm saying is, if that 1 kick caused you that much damage that you couldn't fight,
that fight wasn't going to go your way anyway, man.
That tells me everything I need to know about you. But not my place to say anything on that. But yeah, I just think they kind of missed the mark. Like, just book bowlers and you'll look full. Like, book bowlers and you'll look really full. And I think you kind of outpriced a lot of people. But I think they could do good things. And like you say, they've invested the money in the right way. Now, if PFL did something similar, I had huge hopes for them when they did Cardiff and London last year. I went to the London show, fantastic, like great. The Cardiff show, Rich went. We were speaking about it at length, great. I just don't feel like they've continued that backing, and I'm like, why? You've got serious stars. If you'd have done your tournaments properly, just the way that, and given the exposure that you do on the American tournaments, you might be in a very, very different circumstance. It's good that they've kind of, they've bought Bellator and they're going to run Bellator for the next 2 years. But then I have like serious questions about what's going to happen to your tournament format. Are you still going to run two? Because the reality is the UFC and WEC coincided for a little while, and it didn't work. It just wasn't ideal. So they put them together because that makes more sense. What happens to all these Bellator fighters and these PFL fighters? Because PFL has a notoriously small roster because of the tournament format, which means that if anybody falls out of the tournament, they often can't replace anyone because it's like, well, we can't fix this for you. So, I'm interested to see what they do. I hope, kind of for the people that I know's sake, they do something better next year in terms of their tournament format. But I'm not too concerned with that because I would never fight in that anyway.
Yeah, I think it's a really weird situation with the whole Bellator thing. I was at Bellator Dublin in February, and it just didn't feel the same as what the usual Dublin shows feel like. Dublin's one of these places you can usually bank on having a really good night, regardless of the fights. And I was sort of looking around, and it's like 3 fights from the main event, and the place is sort of dead.
Yeah.
I think the best thing to happen here would be for PFL just to absorb Bellator, take the best of the fighters they can, and let the rest of them go back down to that sort of all these other companies like Aries and Cage Warriors and stuff like that, and just let them out their contracts if you're not going to do anything with them in the PFL. Actually try and make a stacked roster, because there was a few years there where they were, I think they'd first got like Stevie Ray and sort of not Shane Burgos, Oben Mercier and stuff like that, and all the fights were really, really competitive, good fights. And there were a few people coming up like that, Nathan Schultz and stuff like that you're like, there's prospects here as well. And yeah, it felt like they sort of gave up with the marketing and didn't really, like, I used to know when the fights were going to happen on Channel 4.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know what the fuck's happening. I couldn't tell you when they're on TV.
So I think, like, their format, like the tournament style format, it requires you to have two things, really, two good things. One, interest. And when I say interest, I mean, like, if you think about, I'm not great with football, so I won't go to football, but I'll go to basketball. If you think about like the LA Lakers, they have legacy. So no matter what, you'll always have legacy fans, and they can build off that. Okay.
Yeah.
And the Knicks are the same. The Knicks could be awful, but they'll still sell out MSG because we're the Knicks.
For a long time they were.
Yeah, exactly. I remember that I supported the Knicks years ago, like when Melo was there and Stat and JR, Shump. And for me, the Knicks would have a losing season. Didn't matter. We're going to sell at MSG because we're the Knicks, right? And then you also have like your prospects coming up. So like at the time it was like, the Nets, the Cavaliers was getting first round picks all the time. And the other thing it requires is people to have a good understanding of your format. Now, that tournament format that they run isn't something that we're used to in MMA. It's hot, and it's fucking taxing for the fighters. There's fighters that they don't have any time off. There's no off season. Like, we always make this joke about, well, it's not a joke, but like it's always said about MMA that there's no off season, and there isn't, because we fight year round. However, it's a reality that we're not always on. We might not have an off season, but we're not always on. Yeah. Volk is a very good example of that. Volk firmly believed that he was on enough to beat Islam, but it doesn't mean that you're on enough to beat Islam. You're just not off. That's the difference. Yeah. Like, we continue training, but there's levels to your training. And I think like the tournament format's like ridiculously hard for some of these people. And I also think like you can't, there's no level of expansion that you can do from there. So you've got like a currently either 8 or 16 man tournament. It's usually 8, I believe. That's a lot. That's a lot of fights in a year. I think to win it all, you have to have 6 fights in the year, 5-6 fights in the year, something like that. That's a heavy workload. I understand that they have different rule sets, like you can't throw elbows and stuff to help, mitigate the risk of how far they get through. But that's heavy. That's very, very heavy to do in 1 year. I don't know if that format holds up for them, and I don't know what you do with Bellator, who have world level talent, who are already sitting there going like, I've got Johnny Eblin, for an example. He's probably one of the top 10 in the world.
Yep. Very much so, I'd say.
Like, is it Umar Nurmagomedov that's there? Again, one of the top 10 in the world. Very much like in my eyes, these guys are elite. The Pitbull brothers, Juan Archuleta, they'd all do well in the UFC. Yep. What do we do with them? AJ McKee. Like, where do we take these people? What do we do with these athletes? Because they're not just going to, if they're not going to be in the tournament. So then you've got to ask, like, what's PFL going to do? Are they going to scrap their tournament format? Because I think what makes PFL interesting is that it is a tournament league format. And then I'm like, well, you can't get rid of that because that's your stick, that's your niche. You can't get rid of that. So then who do you become?
Yeah, it's hard to sort of say whether you make the tournament a smaller part of the organization. So maybe you've got a tournament running in the background, sort of whoever wins the tournament gets a title shot at the end of the year, and in the meantime you've got sort of people matched up. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so obviously Bellator have their tournaments. They have their tournaments. They pick one a year, which is, for me, better. I think it's hard to have champions and tournament champions. I don't think the two formats mesh. I really like what Bellator do, where they have their champion in the tournament and that's defended every time they fight. Cool. I think that's a really good idea of doing it. I personally think what I would do, because I don't believe that the showcase style bouts are fair to those athletes, because I'll give you an example. Friend of mine, Abraham Badley. Okay. He won a contract in the tournament. And then, his fight got pulled, unfortunately, but due to complications on their end, he wasn't in the tournament. Now, he then gets showcase bouts. And I'm like, you're better than that. But you should be, you won your way into the tournament, Simeon Powell's a good example as well. Last year, he was doing showcase bouts and he was smashing guys. They put him in the European tournament, and I'm like, why? This guy's on world level. It's clear. Put him in the main tournament. Yeah,
I get you there. Like, I think a lot of the sort of format, and especially seeing when it's not your sort of main tournament in the PFL, it all gets quite confusing. Like, there's guys trying to fight for entrance into the tournament. At the end of last year, basically, it was everybody said to Dylan, "Listen, you've done well at 155, but you're a 145er. Like, let's go back down at 145 and deal with that next year." So that was the plan. Then a week later, they offer him a showcase bout at PFL Dublin, the one coming up in December. And if he wins that, he wins entry into the 155 tournament for next year. So it's
I can't say that I can relate to the struggles of being a lighter fighter, because I've never been there. I used to make 93. It was shit. So now I'm a heavy. But if I was a tweener, so I was like stuck between two weight classes, I would live a perennially stressed life, because I would not being a 55er and a 45er is so, even though it's 10 pounds, it's so drastically different. It's because ultimately you got to cut the weight, and I would be bigger and cutting more if I was going to 55 than I would if I was going to 45, because I'd have to be smaller so I could make the cut. It's the exact reason I don't do 93 anymore, because it was like my body's trying to grow and trying. I feel like I want to be bigger. And then it was like, well, you're going to have to let that happen then. And then it's like, but if I let this happen, I'll never make 93 again. And now it's like, I know for a fact, short of cutting off my leg, I'm not making 93 again. So
yeah, a lot of people sort of forget that when you get to a certain age, late 20s and sort of early 30s, your body just starts changing again, man. Guys go through
Yeah.
like another puberty spurt where fucking your bones get bigger and like just a bunch of weird things happen that mean you can't lose weight quite as effectively before. So I can imagine for these lighter guys, especially see like the big 125ers and 135ers, like, geez, or even the big lightweights, because they've got the 15-pound jump, ain't they?
Yeah, that's like the 15-pound jumps are quite horrible. I mean, like 155 to 170, 170 to 85, 85
Yeah.
to 205. But like,
Yeah,
I
that's
don't care what
20.
no one says. Like, the worst jump is like 205 to 265 because you don't want to be stuck in this mid range. So for like a long time, when I used to make 93, I would walk at around anywhere between 105 and 110. Then I would have to get to 100 to know that I could make 93. So that was always shit anyway, but I'd make it. But like when you're a heavy, there's something to be said for being about 220, 230 and being able to move and light and explode, all that cool stuff. But like the reality is most guys are going to be 265.
Yeah,
And that's a hard prospect to deal with. Like Derek Lewis cuts to 265. Brock Lesnar is the example I used to use for everyone. Brock Lesnar used to cut like best part of 30 pounds. Like, I'm not showing up on fight day and you're weighing 300 pounds.
yeah, unbelievable. Like Mark Hunt used to have to cut a fair amount as well. He's about what, 5'9", 5'10".
Yeah,
He's not.
and I'm
He's
like,
not a big guy. Like,
and I'm not showing up knowing that you weigh, I don't know, like you weigh 300 pounds and I weigh 230 because
yeah, I think
it's
at
not for
lower
me.
levels, like these 230, 240 guys, they're probably going to buzzsaw through a fair bit of out of shape heavyweights. But the further up the leagues you go, all these guys, you need to sort of be like 265, 250 to be able to deal with these guys because everybody's a great athlete, better athlete. You just start climbing up the rankings.
There's a number that I have kind of in my mind, which is what I won't say the number because then people will know roughly what I'm aiming to weigh. But there's a number that I have in my mind that I look at and go, this is my optimal state. And don't get me wrong, this is different for everyone, but I look at this specific number and go, this is my optimal state. So as I said, I'm 5 weeks out today. I know from about 10 weeks out how much I need to take off each week. And
Yeah.
I know based on how my body feels if I'm close to optimal state. So I, if I stay at my missus' house, I don't take my scale. I didn't take my scale yesterday because I'm not going to be weird and get up and weigh myself in the morning. Like,
Yeah.
But I went to train this morning. I come home. I know roughly how much water I've lost and how much I've intook from training. Get on my scale. I knew what the number was going to be before I got on the scale because I know roughly how my body feels. So I'm like, oh, this feels like it's this number. Oh, it is this number.
So you've sort of got it down to science even within yourself at this point. Like you just know roughly where you're going to be exactly at.
Yeah. So like Kobe Bryant is like a big inspiration for me. And Kobe used to say about having like a mental check of your body when you wake up. What feels good? What doesn't feel good? What's tight? What's loose? How can I loosen it? How can I tighten it back up? How do we feel today? And part of my mental check that I do when I wake up amongst that is, okay, how does your body feel when we stand up and start to move? Does it feel heavy and lethargic? Does it feel like I'm being bogged down? If it does, where's that rooted? Is that rooted in like fatigue? Or is it like, does it feel like it's rooted in my stomach? Is it something that I ate? Did I not eat the right things? And then I'm like, okay, so I have like I'm not saying I'm like some mad scientist, but I've got an acute understanding of how my body feels. But as I work down, I can feel each day that I'm like, this is closer to that weight. This is closer to that optimal zone. And sometimes I'll fall under the weight and I'm like, I feel a bit light. I feel too light. I feel weak. But then I have this number in my mind and I'm like, that's the number that when I feel this is where I perform. And I think everybody has that. And maybe your number as a heavyweight sometimes is at that 230 mark. Cool. If that's you, that's you. It's just not me.
Yeah, and it's regardless of how good you are, it has to start. A 30-pound difference has to start presenting problems at some point. Do you know what I mean? The weird one at the moment is that Jailton Almeida, who just beat Derek Lewis at the weekend, where he's the perfect example of someone who he is a 205er, like he can get there and he's winning there. He seemed comfortable jumping between the two and not being a very big heavyweight. But against Derek Lewis, he didn't really look to get out of second gear. But you know,
so I turned the fight off after the third round because in my mind said there is not a finish coming here, and I'm bored. You're not going to finish him. You're boring me. So, like,
you'd already seen the end of the fight before it happened. Like, it's another 2 rounds of this.
It's another 2 rounds of this. I didn't need to watch the third, but it was like double. We're going to sit on top. Cool. Like, that's cool. And not to take away from Derek, I think Derek's very good on the ground when he wants to be. But like, if we're honest, he just explodes and gets up. And sometimes, like with when attributes are equal, skill will be the deciding factor. The attributes were equal. His strength and Almeida's strength were the same. The skill of holding him down was there for him. And I personally don't think Almeida's upper echelon, because I don't think we've seen enough on the feet. But I think if you look at like Tom as an example, Sergey as an example, Almeida's not holding it on the feet with them. And then when you put the grappling in, I'm like, Almeida's not doing that to Tom. Almeida's not doing that to Curtis Blades. Curtis Blades ain't taking Curtis down like that. Curtis is getting back up. Curtis shouldn't.
I think that Almeida's a terrifying 205er.
Like, yeah and no. Like, again, so terrifying wouldn't be the word I'd use. I think dominant would be the word I'd use. But I'm not scared because you're not going to knock me out.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, just a sort of really big problem. I think he's grappling is maybe. I'm trying to think who we got at 205 that's out grappling him. I mean, I think some of the 265ers, especially in the UFC, are just far too big for him. Like, even if he was to shoot a double on Tom, I don't know.
Tom stands him up and says, like, nah, mate, best of luck. I think when you look at like 205, I don't even think it's necessarily like the people who can grapple, but it's the people who can anti-grapple. So like, let's take Yuri Prochazka. Yuri's a problem. Like, you're not doing that you're not grappling Yuri like that, because Yuri's going to go, here's this really weird random elbow that I've thrown a million times against a tree. So because I've hit tree, I can hit you. Like, Yuri's going to do that. Alex Pereira, like, I think if he shoots on Alex, he's going to eat some shots that he probably doesn't want to eat. But he's still huge for that weight class. So that does become a factor. You know, I'd like to see him. Let's see how his kind of path continues. I think
it's weird. It doesn't look exceptional anywhere, but every time you watch him, you're like, well, I guess it was quite an easy fight for him. Like, he hasn't really done too much wrong. It's just, he's competitive in top 10 in both divisions. Yeah. Yet you're like, but he doesn't feel like a champion anytime soon. It's quite a weird situation he's in. Do you know what I mean?
But does anyone feel like a champion anytime soon?
I don't know. I feel like Tom has for a while.
Tom and Sergey, I would consider like completely different source. Like, I think they are champions real soon. Like, either of them could win the title Saturday, and I wouldn't be shocked. Like, I believe Tom will win in my heart, but I could also understand that, you know, Pav is a problem. Like, there's aspects of, Tom said it himself, he's dangerous. He is dangerous. I think Tom's more than prepared, but he's dangerous. When I look at like light heavyweight, like, who is there at the min? Like, who is there?
That is a good question, to be fair. Like,
so, top of my head, Alex Pereira, Yuri, and I only know that because it's this weekend. Jan Blachowicz is always floating around the region. Jamal Hill's still injured. He's out at the moment. Ankalaev is somewhere floating around doing his thing. Ratchik's probably somewhere floating around. I reckon Anthony Smith somehow
last fought in 2022 when he got beat. Johnny Walker is ranked higher than Alex Pereira at this point. Nikita Krylov somehow's on a 3-fight win streak. That's one that I'm definitely confused about. How the fuck did that happen? I'm sure he was like on the brink of getting cut, and now he's on a 3-fight win streak. So yeah, two with the best claim for a shot at the title next are Johnny Walker and apparently Nikita Krylov.
So Johnny Walker, I mean, I don't think he's a champion. Krylov,
He's the most frustrating fighter in MMA, Johnny Walker. Like, one fight, it feels like he's calmed down, he's actually got his shit together, he's sort of mixing and grappling, he's looking a bit more composed with his striking. And then he comes out the next fight, jumping up and down and gasses himself in the first round, and I don't think he's ever going to be sane enough to be a champion. Do you know what I mean?
I just think I don't necessarily believe his skill level is adequate to be a champion, and that's not a knock on him. I just don't think he's adequate. I don't think he's doing the right things. Like, I think John Kavanagh's a fantastic coach, but like, I just think he's a bit too big to be in there. Like, he's a bit too.
So you mean like not a lot of 205ers and 185ers in that gym?
Yeah, like go and find a gym with giants. Go and find a gym with giants that push you every single day to the point where you go, oh, I probably don't want to be here.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who's going to be like pushing him in the grappling department and stuff like that. Like who's forcing him to sit against the fence and get back up when it's a bunch of 170 people. It's like,
I don't doubt they've got people, but like I can't name anyone. And I'm not saying that you have to have names in the gym to be great.
Charlie Ward, maybe.
But Charlie like makes 170. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that you have to have names in your gym to be great, but like you'll find that if you look at any great athletes, like the vast majority of great athletes, team sports is the only really example you should use because individual sports are different, and MMA is a team sport based on individual performance. You can't go anywhere without your team, but it's your performance at the end of the day. So like when I look at team sports, if you look at like greatness, the greats surround themselves with other greats. Like Kobe Bryant used to say to anyone when they come to his team for a tryout, if you want to win, come here. If you just want to participate, go somewhere else. Like that, it's that simple.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of basketball myself, man. I did watch a fair bit. It was always sort of Kobe's main thing was always being the first one there and the last one to leave, and always trying to surround himself with the right pieces to sort of make himself a champion.
Yeah.
It feels like Johnny Walker, I think, has got every physical gift in order to be able to win that title. Like his frame, his length, his athleticism. But sometimes when you just don't have the sort of mindset that maybe I'm not going to be the most exciting, but I am going to win. I'm going to be the winner of this next fight. And it feels like Johnny Walker's always been missing that.
Yeah.
His is always, I think he sees highlights in his head instead of the full fight. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and like, I guess it's kind of how do you define your own greatness, your own legacy. But like for me as an individual, I look at my performance. So like how I perform and the record, like the record means more than anything to me, and getting the wins. Whereas like, I don't care how the win looks. Let's just get the win. And I think like to be at the top tier of the sport, you kind of have to look at it and go, I'm just concerned with the win. I'm just concerned with like, I am not one of those lay and pray guys, but my God, if my method to victory against somebody is lay and pray, you need to understand that you're going to lie here for 3 fives and I'm going to win because it's what I needed to do.
Well, that's the thing. Obviously, we're just talking about the Almeida fight where everybody that watched it was thinking he could have probably finished him and he didn't. But everybody knows who won. Yeah, the rankings reflect that, and his next fight will reflect that he's just beat Derek Lewis. So, what you might say?
It's bad because like I don't want to be like, I would never want to be that guy that's like, I'm going to be boring and just hit the lay and pray. And I think it's different when you do it every single fight. If it's like doing that consistently, but like for me, I'd be like, well, if that's what I got to do to beat you, then I'm going to do that because now I've won, and now I can go off about my business.
I think especially see if you can do something like that. It's good to put that in the mind of your opponent. See if you're fighting a guy that you know you can definitely out-grapple and you're maybe known for your skills in the feet. Just having that one fight where they're looking over your tape and they go, well, wait a fucking minute here. This guy's sometimes he likes to grapple a bit, you know?
Yeah, like I think you see it a lot with a good example, like so the Danaher Death Squad, like when they first like really fired onto the scene. Once Eddie Cummins had smashed everybody EBR with heel hooks, everybody was like, "Oh my god, this team they just do heel hooks." And then Gary Tonin did it, and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm so scared of the heel hook." And then Gordon Ryan come along, and they were like, "I'm so scared of the heel hook" that he just took everybody's back and was like,
Yeah.
"Hey, check out this RNC that I also do. Check out
I
this
do
RNC."
actually remember that, like, sort of period of time, and I think it was about the first time Danaher had went on Rogan, and Rogan was constantly talking about these heel hooks. And every time he walked out with a fighter, he'd talk about his heel hook. So everybody for about a year and a half was waiting on this sort of influx in heel hook finishes in the UFC. And then
weird.
I think Ryan Hall sort of killed the leg lock game after Tapuria sort of smashed his face through the canvas. Everybody's got a bit more nervous since then, I feel.
It's weird, like, so leg locks themselves, I like leg locks. When I go to jiu-jitsu comps, I'll play leg locks. I think in MMA they're a really, really bad idea. I think they're a really bad idea. You're gonna get punched. And for you to finish, the mechanics require really precise inputs of like you think of Guitar Hero, right?
Yeah.
You know, when you're playing Guitar Hero on like a really, really hard song and it requires really precise inputs that I do correctly in time. It's like trying to play Guitar Hero while someone's yanking you back and forth. Like, it's not going to happen. And I'm like, it's not, you don't want to do that. In jiu-jitsu, you get time because at the end of the day, no one's punching you. So yeah, you're getting struggled about, but you're not getting punched. You know, one of my first coaches said to me, like, the best way to deal with, like, you know, to deal with a black belt is to punch him, because you'll turn a black belt to a white belt real quick. And it's like with leg locks, that's kind of what everyone's ethos was. And I think it's just, there's a lot of mitigating factors which make them really difficult to pull off in MMA. Not that they're not a super effective tool. Like, if you're really, really good with them, absolutely fly on that. But like Ryan Hall versus BJ Penn is a statistical anomaly. You know,
very much
like,
so.
That's not the meta, because when you did it to Taporia was like, "I'm going to punch your face through the wall." You know, it happened with Gary Tonin. Gary Tonin is probably one of the best leg lockers in the world, and he went up against Tan Lee in one, and Tan literally went, "Going to smash your face in now," and smashed his face in, and that was that.
But it's even worse. See, when it's not the sort of Gary Tonin level guys, but like, you'll see on the regional scene some of these younger guys getting a leg lock or a heel hook, but also giving their leg, and they end up in this sort of weird 50-50 heel hook position where eventually they both sort of have to give it up and just sort of get on with their day. It's great to watch.
If you end up in like 50-50 in MMA, like 50-50 is probably the better position to go to, just because like it's even. Like, if you go like double outside Ashi, for example, double outside Ashi is so bad because you're going to give up your back. If you go for like inside Ashi, it's not buzzing, but like you're less likely to get attacked. But like, if someone gets their weight over you in the correct way, you're lined up nicely for a punch. But with 50-50, there is a very, very good chance that you can get just enough hip control to stop them sitting up. Equally, they can get just enough hip control to stop you sitting up. It's like, what do you want to do?
I love a leg lock battle where like no one really knows what to do after they've got to that position. They're just sort of sitting there heel hooking each other. And you're like, these are just going to rip like each other's legs up. Like, just get up. At this point, call it a draw and shake hands, man.
But then I'm like, okay, so if we get to a point in the battle where we're both sat there and we're struggling to finish, we both suck. We're both trash. And we shouldn't have done this movement anyway, because a heel hook's you don't need a lot of movement to get it done. If you're doing it right, it doesn't take a lot. It takes probably about as much, if not less than an armbar, if you're doing it right.
I think it's less common in sort of BJJ competitions for guys to be sitting sort of trying to heel hook each other. But in some of the MMA, I'm trying to think of some of the famous ones. I think Nate Diaz might have been even involved in a situation.
Oh, Nate's been in like 50-50 shootouts multiple times. But I'm never gonna. If we're sitting there in a shootout, I'm telling you right now, I'm like, you've bought a knife to a gunfight, because 110% I don't care about your knee.
Do you think that's what it is? Some of the times it's just sort of their posture. Each other, I'll do it.
Yeah, because like I don't care. Like, so when I'm in a fight, right? When I sign to fight someone, I don't have anything personal with them. Like, there's no beef. Like, we can be friends before. Like, you want a coffee? We'll go get a coffee. Like, whatever. After the fight, we're friends. Once I'm in there, like,
You know what
that's
you
not
signed
the
up for,
case now.
basically.
Yeah, like, I know what you want to do to me, and I would like to do the same to you. So I don't look at it from a stance of like I've got no chill about it. Once the job's done, I'll walk away. But like, if we get in a position where I've got your leg, I'm probably gonna have to break it realistically. So whereas a lot of guys aren't that way inclined, and that's cool. Like, I don't think you should necessarily be that way inclined. But like, when it comes to subs,
You've
that,
got shit to do, places to be. So
yeah, like if Husamar Paul Harris is a great example. Like, Husamar's whole outlook
one of the
was,
biggest dicks in MMA history for anybody listening who doesn't know who that is.
he was a massive dick, but he made sure the job was done. Like,
Yeah.
he's there to do a job. Now, did he go too far? Yeah, but he made sure the job was done.
Yeah, I think I would quite like to see sort of more like Lots Make a Comeback. I think one of my favourite moments in MMA history was the first Joe Lozon versus Jim Miller fight.
Yeah,
Don't know if you've seen that one.
Yeah, good
And
fight.
right at the end, Lozon's just covered in blood and throws this like last ditch flying heel hook attempt that he was this close to getting after getting like fucked up for a good few rounds and making the comeback.
It's hard though, because like I say, so in terms of like positioning for BJJ, you don't give up tons when you attack the legs. You don't give up loads. Like, yeah, do you know what? If you're on double outside, there's a chance to get you back. There's scenarios where they can go to other positions. Maybe they, step over, take mount. But like, those positions have much more dire consequences than MMA. Like, if you are just in regular ashi, pop the inside leg down and sit over to somebody and mount in MMA, you're now going to eat elbows. And if I know anything about the kind of people that fight, they're not going to be happy that you attack their leg. So you're going to eat some hard elbows. That's now the worst scenario for you. So I get why people don't do it.
So I was going to ask you about the whole sort of situation with Tom. You're in the gym in a short notice fight with Sergey Pavlovich. I know you were saying that you were thinking about getting tickets to go over, but it's stressful even just looking at ticket prices for the UFC these days, man.
Yeah, honestly. So a lot of people I know have gone. I hope they have a buzzing time, but like, the reality of the prices for me, and being so close to a fight, it just wasn't right for me to go. I spoke with, obviously we all have coaches, but like, I spoke with a lot of the people that I'm close with, and they were like, look, yeah, it's going to be great, but one, from the financial standpoint, there's better things we could put the resource into, and two, you're going to be all right taking a few days off, and like, how are you going to? I'm really, really open about speaking about it. So my mental health used to be really poor, and it's very, very good now. Like, I'm very happy all the time. Yeah. But one of the things that I'm really, I guess, anal about is that, like, I like to keep to my training for my head, but also keep to the routine that I've said. So I've been very clear about when I do certain things, like all camp, I'm doing this on this day. Like, that's what I'm doing that day. And I need that routine for me. And everybody was just kind of like, you're going to give up that routine to go watch your friend win a world title. And I'm like, yeah. Like, and I know he's going to win. And they're like, well, if you know he's going to win, then why? And I was like, right, okay, yeah, no, you make a fantastic point. They're like, you fight like 5 weeks after. Do you not think that we might need to think about what we're doing? I was like, yeah, absolutely. I totally understand. I'll stay here. But no, it's a crazy scenario. I remember so really weird from my end of things. The morning it was announced, I woke up and I checked my phone like I always do, and I was about to go to grappling in the morning, just in my city, because it was just like the day that I wasn't training with Tom that week, just because of how I like my routine. And I woke up, checked my phone, and I'd seen Tom had posted like a story at like 4 a.m. And I was like, why are you up at 4 a.m.? Like, I know Tom's not up at those hours.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll text him in a sec, see what's gone, like, see what's up. Because in my head, I was like, and then I like thought on it, and I was like, oh, maybe the kids have woke up, or like maybe he's not well. So I checked like the group chat, and like he hadn't said he wasn't coming training. So I was like, okay, whatever. So I went back on Instagram, scrolled down, and then I see Dana's head, like, what's up, guys? And I was like, oh. And then I've just seen like, because I didn't have the sound on, I just seen like they post a clip of John. So I was like, So I like press play because I was like, I need to hear what's going on. And the first words I hear is like, Sergey Pavlovich versus Tom Aspinall. I was like, oh my God, that's why he's awake. He's had the call. It's stupid o'clock. And I was sat there like, I'm going to need to change all of my plans and just be there for the next 2 weeks, just to be, because like that's what teams do. That's what teams do. Like, be there for your teammates. Like, just be a good training partner and be there for your teammates. But it's not like he wasn't training. He was already training. We were very aware that there's a good chance Pav was going to be the next guy.
Yeah.
I think he gets it done. I think he gets it done within, I won't say how long I think it's going to be, but I think he gets it done. Certainly within the distance.
Yeah. I think I was sort of in the same situation as you, where Dana started shouting at me one morning that Jones was out for 8 months, and I'm like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, I guess Stipe just sort of stepped aside and said he wasn't interested any longer. But I've always felt like Tom sort of fits the profile of the most well-rounded and best mixed martial artist at heavyweight. Other than John Jones himself, you'd have to say that's John Jones has sort of proven himself to be the number one at the moment. But I always thought that Tom had the best chance against Jones because he was probably the only guy in the division that had as many tools as Jones. With Sergey, he feels like the White Francis at the moment. Like, I don't know if there's many other ways to look at him, but he's just sort of this scary, marauding heavyweight that he connects with everyone at the moment. So what do you reckon? Do you reckon it's Tom's key to victory here? In fact, I'll put this out tomorrow so that after the fight.
Okay. So, Matt, let's call it my understanding of things.
That's a good prediction, actually. This could work out pretty well.
Tom hits very hard. So does Sergey. But the overarching goal should be to hit and not get hit. Okay?
Yep.
I think there's going to be a feeling out process where Pav realizes that his speed is not on the same level as Tom's speed. Once that's realized, things aren't going to get desperate, but Tom has a greater toolbox, as you've said. Like, I'm not scared of, I don't believe Pav has the ground game to take Tom down and do damage and threaten things, right? So if I had to predict how it would go, I think there would be a feeling out process in which Pav will quickly get the understanding that his speed is not going to match, and therefore he needs to hit very, very quickly and very, very hard. Like, he needs to do this soon. I then think you'll see him overreach. And I think once he overreaches, he'll overreach once where Tom will step back and be out of range and be like, that was close. And the next time he overreaches, I think he ends up on his back. I think he then suffers for a little while and doesn't do too well. Probably eats some shots.
Ewok is what I'm predicting here.
I think he actually gets back to his feet the first time
and
then gets taken down again. And I think once he's on top, Sergey's going to give up his back and it'll be an RNC. If you rewatch Sergey versus Alistair Overeem, he was just stuck in position. And I know heavyweights, the thing that you learn to do is to get to turtle. And I think if he turtles, Tom takes his back and chokes him. And I think Tom wins via RNC raises the interim heavyweight championship of the world above his head, and we walk off into the sunset happily ever after.
I mean, yeah, for me, I don't picture it going too dissimilarly. I think a lot of people don't really take into account the physique of heavyweights, but different physiques mean different things. And
Yeah.
Sergey is very much, I'd probably hazard a guess that his arms were twice as swollen looking as Tom's. A lot of people might think that means that Sergey is stronger, but it means he needs to sort of exert a lot more energy to lift these arms and keep himself covered up. And yeah, I don't know. I remember the Volkov fight with Tom, and I think, is it that unfathomable that Sergey ends up sort of getting himself arm locked or key locked again at some point? Because a lot of these big heavyweights, when they get put on their back, they're just so uncomfortable. Like the route to even standing up and stuff like that just doesn't seem clear. They need their back against the cage and stuff like that.
So the thing that that I would say that as a lighter fighter you never really have to learn is that it is the dynamic between being the hammer and being the nail. So you have that as a guy that's like 155, everyone's 155. Like a normal sized person is 155. So
Yeah.
you can have someone that's great at holding you down and you are the nail. And then you can have someone that's not really as good at that and you're better. So you're the hammer. And you learn this dynamic. As a heavy, you don't get that. You are the hammer. That's it. You're the big dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have no doubt that Sergey trains with heavies. Every heavyweight should be training with heavies. They don't all, but they should be. I have no doubt that Sergey's always the hammer.
Yeah. It's probably a safe assumption.
Tom has been taught by his dad from a very young age and was not always the hammer. Don't get me wrong. The vast majority of the time, he's the hammer. But we will also do positions where he is, in fact, not the hammer. And he finds a way of going, I ain't being the nail. I ain't being the nail today. Forget that. Even when it's his time to be the nail, he's not the nail. Because he's like,
Yeah.
I've taken a few, I'm getting up. Let's see who's the nail. And I think that's the dichotomy that that Pav can't replicate. Having that moment where he goes, I am in fact not the nail. So heavyweights get stuck on the back and they go, I'm the nail. Oh, this is new. Whereas Tom's going to go, been here before, know how to get out, see ya.
Yeah. And especially at heavyweight, like Tom is well-rounded in a division where there's a lot of specialists, even though it might not seem like it. Like Derek Lewis, he's a striker, but if you were to ask about Derek Lewis's wrestling game, anybody, they'd probably rate it a 0.
Yeah.
And there's like loads of other fighters in the division where you're like, Curtis Blades, he'll out-wrestle pretty much anyone in the division.
Yeah.
But Tom, I don't know, he seems comfortable everywhere. I think that's what sort of sets him apart in the division.
Tom realistically has the skills of a lightweight in a heavyweight's body. It's how he does it, I don't know. I could only aim to emulate that one day. But for me, he's head and shoulders above. So it's like Saturday's just his time to show the world. Like, it was good. Like, London was cool. It was like a mini coming out party.
Yeah.
It was like a mini coming out party. But this is like, no, I am that guy. Like, and then when he raises that, that title and, should Jones come back, they can run it. And I'll bet on Aspinall every time. Like, I'll bet on him every time. Like, I don't think he's stoppable. I don't think he's stoppable. There's not anyone in that division now that Tom can't look at and go, I'll run through you. And if he doesn't already know how, he will find a way how.
So, same card, obviously. The big one, other than that, is Yuri versus Alex Pereira.
Yeah.
To me, it's a super interesting fight that only ends one way.
Okay. Do you mean one way as in one method of victory or one way as one person?
No, one method of victory.
Oh, yeah, someone's getting knocked the fuck out. Someone
Yeah,
getting knocked the fuck out.
Feel like Alex knocks Yuri out, but that's me using sort of MMA maths. It's all right, where's this fight taking place on the feet? Who's the more polished striker? Who's more liable to make mistakes? I feel like Yuri's more willing to put his chin out there than Alex, and yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's just precision is going to be the thing that Alex needs to win this.
So when I look at this fight, first thing I'd say is I think light heavyweight's really boring. Like John did something to that division which they've never, like, you know, that Tiger King meme where he's like, I'll never financially recover from this. That's Dana looking at the light heavyweight division. Like, I made John this unstoppable champion and no one else is compared since. Now, when I look at Yuri, I think Yuri's got a wealth of experience in MMA. He's more well-rounded in terms of MMA. Yes, he's not as polished of a striker, but what I will say is he's very, very polished in what he does. So he's supremely unorthodox. Like, I'll never say he's not, because he is. Like, he's weird. Like, he does weird stuff. Like, I see him hitting trees and stuff, and I'm like, bro, stop. But, you know, like, the Reyes fight's a good example, like spinning random elbows and stuff and puts Reyes kip. Alex is much more kickboxer. It's very precise, like, you know, left body kick, right calf kick, left hook, stay on my jab, stay on my cross. It's very, Now, I think the big issue will come in that Alex is happy to go 1-for-1. It's a very Thai boxy, kickboxy mentality. I hit you, you hit me. I hit you, you hit me. That doesn't fly. It just doesn't fly in MMA, because I hit you, you hit me doesn't work anymore, because I hit you, you don't get up. Like, that's my issue. So I would look, my head's like, my heart wants Alex to win, but I genuinely think Yuri will. I just think Yuri's got more, like, Yuri can get subs. Yuri can wrestle a bit. And I think if we look at, like, Alex versus Jan, Alex got wrestled, and I think, like, Yuri's a superior wrestler to Jan.
Really?
Yeah, I think he's way more.
Maybe I'm sleeping on Yuri's sort of wrestling credentials. I know he choked out Glover, but that was just sort of a clusterfuck at the end of an exhausting fight.
But, like, he makes fights a clusterfuck. He makes fights that way. Like, if we look at people who want to be in the chaos, Yuri's the definition of that example. He wants to be in the chaos, like, and he's going to win in the chaos. So it's like, I always liken it to. So the way I look at it is that you get some fighters that are really good when it's like just like it is in the gym. So it's supremely polished and it's very, this works, and I throw my jab perfect and I do all that. And they're really good when they deal with supremely crisp guys like that. And then you get wild men that don't throw like that. And you're like, whoa, what happened there? I can't believe he landed. Tyson Fury versus Ngannou is a good example. Now, caveat to this, I didn't watch the fight. I've got better things to do with my life. But what I will say is I've seen the knockdown, and I think Fury got a little bit dazzled by the fact that the shots he's looking at, but the shots he's looking at aren't the shots he sees. He got hit with, like, he's getting hit with, like, slightly overhand shots, and he's like, that's not a hook. What the hell? Like, I got knocked down. And I think that's what you're going to see with Yuri. He's going to create chaos and then thrive in it.
I think I don't know, there's just something about Yuri. I don't even know if it's his style. You know, these guys we were talking about, like Johnny Walker earlier, and maybe guys like Michelle Pereira and stuff like that, where there's just something that tells me they're getting knocked out soon. But on the flip side of that, Yuri hasn't been knocked out, and he's sort of proven himself in every obstacle he's overcame. And I think a lot of people forget that Alex's record isn't that great in MMA. See, if you look at the ways he's like beat, like Bruno Silva pushed him to the distance when he first came into the UFC, and I don't know. I think it's an exciting fight because it's one that I genuinely, I feel like there's no way for this to end other than a knockout, which, let's face it, it's the best way for an MMA fight to end.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm interested in what happens, but it's it's a shame John Stipe's off the card, because I think as much as I love Pav and Tom as a matchup, it's taken some kind of a little bit of star power off, because John is a star. It's taken a bit of star power off the card. The card itself, top heavy. We know that with pay-per-views now. Still be good. It'd be a good night. It'd be a good night. But I can't imagine. I'm not staying awake for it. Like,
Nah,
I'm not staying awake for all of it. I'll wake up for Tom's fight. I'll watch Tom. I'll go back to sleep.
that's fair.
And then go about my day.
Yeah, I think there's a few decent other fights in the card. Andrade versus Mackenzie Dern. What you reckon? Is this going to be a coming out party for Dern sort of thing? I think it's 3 losses in a row for Andrade at the minute.
I just think so. Like, Andrade has been at multiple weight classes, and I'm like, you're not. So you have to ask yourself: was Andrade elite, or did she slam Rose Namajunas on her head? Like, which is it? Was she elite, or did she slam Rose on her head and won?
To me, before the Rose fight, she looked better. So when she first burst onto the scene, she was using the hands a lot. She was known as the one sort of smaller woman with knockout power in her hand.
Yeah.
And then it felt like she got the title and everything sort of started sliding. I don't know if it's just a loss of motivation. I don't know if USADA got stricter. I don't know what happened, but it feels like Andrade was just sort of a product at that moment where there was not a lot of good strikers in the women's division.
So the thing I would liken it to, or I would kind of look at it from the viewpoint of, when I think of MMA as a whole, but it's capitalizing on these really, really small moments where what you do fits really well against the person you're facing. If we think about Holly Holm versus Ronda Rousey, Holly Holm slaps up Ronda by doing what she does really well, right? Like 2 rounds, done, see ya. Holly's next fight, she dominated 4 rounds. Dominated, was winning. It was over. And in the last seconds of the 5th round, Miesha Tate slapped an RNC on her and was like, see ya, I'm champ now. It's just, it doesn't, you can, I think, like, you can be the greatest at what you do, but a small mistake changes everything. So, like, with Andrade, I don't think it's even like, I don't think USADA got stressed. I don't think any of that stuff happened. I think people just capitalized on what they're good at the exact right moment. And if you do that at the exact right moment, fair play to you. Everything you needed to do is done. I'd like to see her do well, but I think Dern's a specialist. So it's like, Dern's just going to do what Dern does. Yeah. When you stop Dern from doing what she doesn't do great.
Yeah, she's been, Andrade has been finishing her last 3, 2 of them by submission. It feels like everybody and their mum sort of knows how this one's going to go, but you never know. The other fight I was interested in the card, only because I actually like the guy, Matt Frivola. He's fighting Benoit Saint Denis.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. That'll be a busy fight.
No, Matt Frivola is someone that I've always sort of liked. Probably because when I first started the sort of MMA writing stuff and that, he'd gave me a hand with a few articles and sort of let me have an interview at the beginning. But over the past couple of sort of fights, he's actually been looking really good and getting better and better and getting the knockouts and stuff like that. So I feel like if he manages to win over someone like Saint Denis here, who was it he fought last time out? Thiago Moises, and then before that it was Bonfim.
Yes, I remember the Bonfim fight.
He's managed to get wins over there too. So, yeah, what do you make of that fight?
I like Steamroller. I think he's good. Obviously, he's been around quite a while now. It's difficult. I'd like to say he gets the win, but it's like I say, MMA math doesn't always make a ton of sense. So, and it's super hard when it's hard to beat somebody that's like winning, because like when you have this feeling when you're on a win streak and when you've like, I don't know, won 4 in a row, whatever. It's not this unbeatable feeling. But when you've lost and then you go on a winning streak, you're like, I've got it back. I'm that guy. I can do this. And I think it's hard to stop somebody with that momentum. I think Matt can get it done, but like momentum's a huge thing. Momentum is a really huge thing. I know it's good to like the undefeated thing is good for people, but I just think the momentum of having a few wins is more than enough to carry a lot of people through. But I'd hope to see that Matt gets it done.
Yeah, the thing I like about Matt's fighting style is he's very unapologetically Thai. Do you know what I mean? He's got this sort of whole Thai tattoo on his back, and it always felt like for a long time with the Thai fighters coming into the UFC or the heavy Thai base, they were getting knocked out because they were sort of being too heavy on their too light in their front leg and getting taken down and stuff like that. But
I mean, it works for some people though, because I mean, if you look at Khalil Roundtree, he's like
that's my favorite performance ever, by the way.
Yeah, mate, he's just like, I'm gonna be Thai. I'm gonna do Thai today, and he went out to train at Tiger, and he's an absolute horrible guy. Like the amount of times I've seen him soccer kick somebody in the ribs, and I'm like, there's just no like, there's no need to be who you are. I felt so much from Modestus, but I was like, it's a completely legal strike. It's a completely like.
That's one of those things that I'm always curious about, because there's been a few people, especially Jones, using the sort of oblique kick and stuff like that. See these like knee stomps and oblique kicks. See, especially in early fights, do you know how, like, if you've ever had your knee kicked, of course you have, but for anybody listening, if you get it kicked, even if it isn't damaged, it's terrifying because you feel shit move. Like you feel your knee sort of move and you're like, oh fuck, right, that's me, I think I'm injured. It turns out most of the time you're fine. But even just the feeling you get inside your leg enough to make you sort of hesitate for a second, and
but like,
is it something you're keen on?
Where do we draw the line? Like, where do we draw the line? Okay, so we've already got rid of 12-6 elbow, stupid rule. Like, I can hit you with way more force than a 12-6. Like, I don't care that fucking people doing fake karate are breaking bricks. I can hit you with way more force than a 12-6. Trust me.
Yep.
So, okay, so a 12-6 is 2 damaging. We'll remove that. Okay. And a knee stomp, is 2 damaging, so we'll remove that. Well, a heel hook can do just as much damage, so we'll remove that.
If not more.
Yeah, like, maybe I don't throw left hooks anymore because I can knock you out, which could cause brain damage. Okay, so then I won't punch you at all because I don't want to cause you brain damage. No spinning back kicks to the body though, because that might cause a little bit too much rib damage or liver. We'll remove knees because they're too heavy. Where do we end? Where do we draw the line? I think, like, for me, you sign a contract to say that you're going to have a fight with someone.
Yeah.
It's
I wish, like, I know it sounds bad on fighters, like I'm wishing fighters poor health, but I wish we got to see more people using techniques like sort of knee and stuff attacks, because I want to see what the most effective fighting techniques are. And in my head, I feel like those are one of those ones that there's not many counters to a really well-timed kick to the knee.
So it's not something I necessarily do. I mean, feel free to tune in December 15th to find out. But that was a good plug. That was
really good.
So, like, I'm not an advocate of these techniques, but I'm also not opposed to them. I think if you're gonna get in a cage fight with someone, be prepared to die on that hill. Like, I'm not saying you're going to die, but like, be prepared to die on that hill. And when I look at it, I'm very much of the opinion that, like, if you hit me with that technique, cool. I probably shouldn't have allowed myself to get hit.
Yeah, like, I get that a lot of people just don't want to injure people, but it's kind of silly when you're in an MMA fight to not want to injure someone, because if that guy had thought of kicking you in the knee and thought it would win him the fight in the middle of the fight,
he would do it.
Yeah, it tends to be that simple.
You can walk away when your job's done. That's how so when I hit Kenzo and I knocked him out, I knew he was knocked out off the jab. I jabbed him, I saw his eyes go, but I was already throwing the cross because the intention was always that 1-2. Yeah. I threw the cross, and you'll see the second that the cross landed, I see him fall backwards, and I go,
yeah. Because I noticed that you got the walk off KO mark style, didn't you?
Yeah, like the Mark Hunt style is cool, but it wasn't about the fact that I was walking off. The job was done. I could have jumped on top, smashed him twice in the face, and maybe I would have got that bonus. But do you know what? maybe he'd have a problem as a consequence of that. Maybe I would have really, really hurt him. I don't need to really, really hurt you. I need to do the job. So the job was done, and then it's like, I'll see you later then. I've done what I needed to do. If I slap an RNC on someone, I let go when they tap, and my job is to knock him out. Well, he's out. I knew the second he I knew when I hit the jab that he wasn't coming back up. It was just the difference was if I hit the cross, he definitely hit the floor. So when he hit the floor, I was like, I can go. Because your body's sliding backwards like that. I know you're not getting up to fight me. And you'll see, like, it's weird, right? So I was walking away, and my friends, my friends were in the crowd, and my friends were creasing at this because they knew exactly why I did it. You'll see I looked back over my left shoulder, because as I walked off, the ref didn't move forward. And I went, fuck.
You sure, mate?
I was like, fuck, if he's not stepped forward, maybe he's rolled and he's getting up. And I was like, oh no, I had a quick look. I was like, oh no, it's done. That's fine. Because I was like, this is over. Like I saw in the first one, you were done.
To be fair though, there's some referees that you watch. Like there was a Russian guy, I think it was back in Abu Dhabi in the UFC, that refereed 3 fights in a row, and every one of them, someone nearly died. Like there's some refs out there want to see blood.
Yeah, and I think like I've always said, like, don't stop my fights unless like I'm done. But like I will walk away if I know you're done.
Yeah.
That's like the sportsman in me kind of goes like, this is sport, like it's competition. It's not about me killing you. If it's a game of who's the best killer, I'm still gonna win whether I walk away or not, because you couldn't do anything about it. But the difference is now you can go and play that game with somebody else again. Like once
people
the job's
like
done,
at heavyweight, it's a different ball game, isn't it? Like you punching someone 5 times unprotected on the chin is maybe a bit different from a 155 or even a 170. Like, it's not great for anyone.
No.
But someone that's 260, well, can weigh 265 plus in the heavyweight division on fight night, it's a really dangerous game to be playing with these unprotected shots. Like,
horrendous. It's an awful idea. And I'm like, I don't think they should be stopped, because I think they're a necessary part of the sport. But like for me, I do look at it and I'm kind of like, well, I don't need to hit you with that extra one, so I won't hit you with the extra one. Like it's the job's done.
Yeah, it can make all the difference when someone retires, whether their sort of brain was bashed around a bit more while they were unconscious 10 years ago. Do you know what I mean?
Like we don't need to do that. And I'm not, like I say, I'm not saying outlaw it, but I'm like, if we're going to look at like stuff like outlawing knee stomps, then let's outlaw, strikes when someone's clearly out.
Yeah.
But then we have this massive onus on referees to recognize when someone's unconscious. And I'm like, sometimes it's just not that way. Like it doesn't seem that way.
Yeah. Every time, like I hate early stoppages. They infuriate me to no end, because some guys really do get fucked over out of win bonuses and all sorts.
Yeah.
But I would take 100,000 early stoppages over a late stoppage. Late stoppages are those, I hate those, man. Like when your only job is to protect the fighters and you're not doing it, I'm like, oh, why are you here? Like,
I also think though there's like a level of I like it when referees come and have a conversation with you beforehand.
Yeah,
because
but the way they stand on it. Like a lot of refs have different stances. Like, I'll let you fight back, or do this and let me know you're okay. And
exactly, if I have that conversation with you, I'm like, cool, no worries. I know exactly what to do, because I'm like, well, if I know that you're only going to step in if it's fucked, yeah, fine. But if you're like, or if I'm not sure, I don't really know if I want you reffing me, but I can't change who refs me.
Yeah, I think it like some of the basic rules of refereeing are like, look, if a fighter's got his hands up, if his hands are still up here, let him fight. Like I've seen guys sort of rolling with shots side to side, and there's been maybe 3 or 4 shots where he rolled with and then threw one back. And as he's in the middle of throwing, the ref stepped in to stop it because the other guys hit him with 4 quote unquote unanswered shots, even though the guy's blocking. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but then like Adesanya Pereira is a good example. Adesanya was out on his feet. Like out on your feet. Like some fighters have been in that situation enough times that their body just goes, well, throw back. Like,
Yeah. I mean,
I'm
at
like,
what point do you consider it not defending yourself or defending yourself, though? Like, that's a hard one. Because to me,
I,
if you're defending, like, that's a readily apparent thing. But I guess
is it
Adesanya
though?
was out on his feet while defending himself.
Like, is it readily apparent? Because, like, so the caveat to defense is intelligent defense. Is doing this and moving side to side particularly intelligent for someone that is throwing shots around your guard? I don't think
mean,
it is.
I guess not. It's hard to, yeah.
I look
guess you
at it
sort
and
of have
go,
to.
intelligent defense in that situation is get the fuck away from me. Let's get some space. Well, yeah, cool. Do you know what's not intelligent? Me leaning on the cage going, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. As shots are hitting me here around my guard.
I guess I'm thinking about it in context of training and bigger gloves. I guess it's a lot different then than when you're using proper MMA gloves in a fight, ain't it? You can catch shots all day and bigger gloves and like.
I train at a Thai club, and everyone's like, "Oh, you got to block tighter, and you got to do this, and you got to do this," and I'm like, "You don't understand that I fight in I spar in 18-ounce gloves, and I fight in 4.
Yeah,
That
that
shot
was
is
the
getting
thing.
through regardless. Like if you hit, like if I don't block like that, your kick like that or whatever, that kick was getting through regardless. Like if I've just happened to go cool and touch it with my hand, and you say that's not enough, yeah, maybe it's not enough, but like it was going
I
to come
don't
through
usually have
regardless.
gloves on. I can't hit it. Like I can't
Yeah,
attack.
like I
I
don't
can't break
normally.
my hand.
Yeah, I can't touch it. Like normally, I remember I blocked somebody's kick once, like when I was at Army, like that. Just like they were gonna head kick me, I was like, nope, and they're like, it's a terrible defense, and I was like,
Yeah,
but it's not. Like it is to you, someone that's got a massive glove that they can defend their head with. I don't.
yeah,
So I will just push your leg out the way because get fucked if that's hitting me.
yeah. Well,
Like,
that was the thing. Like I was taught like a fair while ago now, but it was like my sort of first MMA class, and I'd went in with bigger gloves and says, right, no gloves today. Put your guard up. And as soon as I had this, usually keep it a bit forward to protect the chin. And he's like, no, we don't do that here. If you're having a guard here, you have to use your hands to make a post box,
yeah,
basically. And it would never have like dawned on me because of the size of the bigger gloves that, do you know what I mean? It didn't really work in those. There's so many differences in these 4-ounce gloves, like the way you block things and
yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily think post box is always the correct way. It's not what I do.
yeah. This was a beginner's MMA class, by the way. It was
Makes complete
it was
sense.
just given, yeah.
Mine's a little bit lower, but I also have the recognition that my hands have just got to move. Like my hands have got to move. Whereas, like when you say box or tie, it's like I'm gonna stay here.
Yeah.
But like,
that's all I'd ever done when I was younger. Was like I done Muay Thai film. I was like 12 till I was 17.
okay.
Then I went to party for a bit and then sort of tried to get back into it. But it was yeah, there was a whole bunch of things. I went into a gym before I got to higher level. I went to a gym before that, and it was sort of a local bit of a shit show. I went in, and first day in, it was basically work out until you throw up, and then sparring. So I went in, I was sort of fighting this guy, called himself the Polish hooligan. You can tell he sounds friendly. So this is my first day back in. I think I was about 9 stone at this point. And this guy, I'd forgot pretty much all the basics, and see how easy it is to get swept over and over again by these Thai guys.
Yeah.
By the 4th or 5th time, it's just demoralising. And then when you think they're going for sweeps, you're getting hit with these big shots. But the main thing you notice in these Thai gyms is everybody just is so comfortable being rigid. There's very few of these loose guard fighters, and see the sort of Thai exclusive gyms where it's just a basically fight club. I'm sure you've been to a few of the types where you just sort of walk in and you fight and then everybody leaves again.
Yeah, and it's not my style. Like not the same, but like I move more similar to Tom. I'm loosey goosey. Let's just move about a bit. It's not. I'm not. And look, there's nothing wrong with the Thai style. If you fight like that, that's cool. It's just not me. So I'm very much going to do my thing. You could do your thing. I take your points on board. They're just not necessarily what I do. Or not necessarily what worked for me. So
I always found MMA gyms to be a lot friendlier. And I think it's because, see, a lot of these Thai guys, they might have had like 180 fights, and you don't know their name, and you probably never will.
Yeah.
And their whole life's been dead. So now maybe they teach some Thai classes on the side and stuff like that. But these guys are like exceptionally good fighters
Yeah.
that have never made a penny out of a sport that's took everything from them. So
Yeah.
a lot of
That's the
these Thai
reality.
gyms, like if you walk, like I walked in there with my sort of tattoos and a smile, and I think a few of them wanted to prove a point. So I was there for fucking a few weeks and ended up with, sort of from the top of my shin
Mhm.
to the top of my thigh, it just went purple all the way around. Like it, yeah, man. I've got pictures and shit. Like these guys were fucking me up. And then eventually my mate's like, mate, just go to a higher level. Like,
Yeah.
go to a proper professional MMA gym where they're actually going to help you out. And yeah, I really need to get back to it though. Winter's a hard time to train. I don't know how you guys do it.
I just it's not so like I have zero motivation to train. I'm just disciplined to do it. Like like for example, I start work in like 40 minutes. So
Oh
like
shit.
I'll have some
Yeah,
food shortly and then work. But on my break at work, I'll probably do like a little cycle or maybe go for a jog because it's like we'll get the cardio in
yeah.
and like it's not because like I'm motivated, like I'm just disciplined to get it done. So like the winter doesn't really bother me. Like it's just what so it's colder. Oh well. But like to kind of get back to what you were saying, I think with Thai, I understand that like people don't make money from it, and it's hard because like you make money from MMA. Not a lot, but you can make money, and there's potential to make a good amount of money.
I think that's the
Um,
real point, ain't it? Is that the hope's always still there with MMA.
yeah, whereas like the money isn't necessarily in Thai, so you kind of do it for the love, but like because of that, and I think because of that, they're like, well, you don't love this in the same way that I do. You don't.
Yeah.
I love this, which is why I'm doing it. So we go hard, and I'm like, you all can be gym heroes all you want, man. Like I ain't here for that. Like I'm here to do my thing.
Yeah.
And I've always been like I'm super thankful for the Thai guys I know because they're all lovely and they're not like that. Like the guys in Stoke, like I train with Liam Griffin, he's like I think he's ranked 13th in the world at like 62 kg.
Yeah.
62. That sounds right. And it's like, yo, he's excellent, and all the guys around us are excellent. But like, I still am gonna fight MMA. So some of the stuff you say doesn't work for me necessarily, but it's still important to take on board. Like they're still ultimately really, really skilled. So I'll always take that on
Yeah.
board.
So I'll get another quick question or two off before I let you leave. It'll only be a second. Your Aries FC contract. How many fights?
4 fights.
4 fights. So 2 more after this.
Yeah, 2 more after this. We'll see. We'll see.
Have you got a sort of dream route that you'd like to take with your career at the moment, or are you just happy sort of seeing out what happens at Aries?
I won't do
the
all,
contender series isn't.
I won't do all fights with all 4 fights with Aries. I tell you that now.
All right, so you'll
be
got
lucky
plans?
if you get one more. You'll be lucky if you get one more.
Yeah. Is that more to do with Aries or different plans?
That's more to do with me.
That's more to do with you.
More
So is
to do
that
with
something
me.
that we might need you for on a later date?
Look, I'm going one place. It's 3 letters long. Like I'm going there. How, when, all of that stuff's irrelevant. It's very unlikely I'll do all 4 fights, but once I win this next one, I would imagine if I do it in emphatic fashion, which I plan to, then potentially one of 2 things: big 3 letters, or and I don't care if we have to go there via contenders or we have to just go there. I'd prefer to just go there. That would be easier. But or we fight for the title and then we go there.
Well, I mean, here's a idea. If Tom wins the title, maybe you get in through the Blood Diamond route, At the time, you managed to fucking just start bringing in mates. Like, I'm sure Tom's first title defense, you wouldn't mind being the main card opener. Or even the prelim opener, but yeah.
Look, the world happens to work in mysterious ways. And what I've always said is that like when my time is right, it will come. And so last December, I had a fight on the regional scene. And I remember on the day, like I found out that one of my friends had taken their life, sadly, the night before. And I dedicated my fight to them, and I sat with all of my other friends that night and said, look, I'm going to have one more fight on the regional scene. Then I'm going to get signed to Aries. I specifically said Aries. I was like, I'm gonna fight in France. I'm probably gonna knock someone out, and then before you know it, I'll be on the pathway to the UFC. I didn't make a big deal of it, and everybody was like, yeah, standard shit. Like you're doing that whole new year, new me shit, and I'm like, okay, so the way it went down is I won my next fight on the regional scene in the April. And my manager put out to Aries, like, do you want him? And Aries said, no, we don't think he's ready. Okay. Then Kenzo had a pullout.
And then you were ready.
It was 4 weeks. It was 4 weeks notice, and they expected me to lose. I've been betting on me for a long time, and I'll continue to bet on me. And I didn't need nothing. I just started training. I've been training with Tom about 4 weeks, and I literally was like, yeah, I'll be fine. I'll figure it out. Mm-hmm. I don't get 4 weeks notice. I ain't fussed. Let's do it. To which even my manager was like, you sure? I'm like, I don't care. 4 weeks notice, more than enough. I went out. I did exactly what I told everybody I was going to do. And I'm going to win my next one. And at some point, I don't care if it's Dana, Hunter, Mick, or Sean, one of them will call me and ask if I'm available soon. And I am, whenever they want to call me.
Well, I mean, it feels like you've got a lot of things going in your favour for this dream becoming a reality. Like you're on Fight Pass already, so I'm sure Dana will be getting sent any highlights, anything exceptional that happens. The heavyweight division, it's dying for new blood most of the time. A heavyweight's stint in the UFC can be a short one. So, you know, if I was to hazard a guess, there's a good chance that if the next time we've maybe got a UK show, they're looking for a heavyweight.
It's almost like there's a theoretical roadmap that I'm very aware of.
But you've got one thing that's a problem for you, though.
Go on.
The lack of a nickname.
I don't need a nickname. I don't need a nickname. Listen, when you show up and you're willing to wear a unicorn t-shirt that says, let me get you some shut the fuck up cakes, or, you know, you're willing to smile and blow kisses at your opponents pre, post, or whatever, none of it really matters. UFC likes saleable guys. They like saleable guys. Look, you can sell me. You could sell me for whatever you want, darling. Like, if they're going to pay the money, I'm going to show up. I am not fussed about having a nickname. I'm the prince.
I feel like all great heavyweights have a decent nickname, though.
Tom doesn't have a nickname. Brother, I'm the unicorn princess. I can do what I want. I don't need no nickname.
Well, have that as a prefix to your name. Tell me you're viral. Unicorn princess is the nickname. You might not realize it, Nick.
I'm not prefacing myself with anything. Like
just the word "just."
Nah, like when you speak of me, speak well. They don't need to speak of my nicknames. Just when you speak of me, speak well.
That's fair. Yeah. So thanks for joining us. I'm going to let you go now. I think we've been here for a fair while.
Bro, anytime. Like I've always got time, brother. It's just I do have that unfortunate instance of still having a job. So
yeah, it sucks, right?
Yeah, I've been trying to get out of it, but my bills keep needing to be paid. So
I'm sure the UFC will sort that soon enough.
It's weird. It's almost like there's a roadmap. Almost like there's a roadmap that I'm very aware of.
Yep. So I'll have all Joffie's sort of social media stuff down in the description. Thanks for your time again.
Do not follow me on Twitter. I will not reply. I am
not on Twitter.
Just hit me on Gram. Like I'm not
mainly Instagram. Thanks, man.
No worries, brother.